Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast, where you'll be not only allowed, but encouraged to dream big dreams and imagine the very best future for yourself and your family. Throw away expectations and perfection and embrace the messy beauty of what it means to be a marvelous mom. I'm your host, Kirsten Tyrell, and I can't wait to help you discover what makes you marvelous. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. This is sadly a redo. We originally recorded this and it was probably phenomenal, but in listening back to the replay, it just didn't upload quite right. It sounded like chipmunks were talking. And so here we are. I'm redoing this episode in hopes that there's something that's going to come out of this call today that's going to inspire you that maybe we didn't say before. So welcome to the podcast, my really good friend, JoEllen Gifford.
Hello.
I did it before.
JoEllen Woods.
JoEllen Woods. That's so funny. I'm just trying to repeat history. I don't know. It's because I'm like, it's JoEllen Gifford Woods, but I'm like, or is it JoEllen Woods Gifford? No, it's JoEllen Woods.
I'll always be a Gifford, so it's okay. It's fine.
We have I guess it's a mutual friend, but it's your sister-in-law, Michelle Gifford, who's been on the podcast, who's just one of the most amazing humans ever, and the reason that we even know each other. And so I feel like the Gifford just has to be in there because it's the reason we're even tied together, right?
Right. That's right. Yep.
The connection. So, well, I'm really happy that you're here again, and I love your story, and it's one that I wouldn't hesitate to make sure we re-record because I want people to hear it. It's so exciting and inspiring and just also down to earth at the same time. So why don't you start by telling everybody kind of your mom scenario, how many kids you have, ages, stages, what that kind of looks like.
Okay. I have been married for 16 years. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. Their ages are 14, 12, 9, and 7. So we have a busy life, and my kids are the best.
I love it. And it's fun that is your girl at the end or is she somewhere in the middle? Okay.
She's at the end. She's our baby. Yep.
I bet that was an exciting day when you finally got a girl.
It was. I just thought I was going to have all boys, and I was just going to be okay with that. And then luckily she came along, so it was fun.
Good. Well, I'm glad you got her, and I'm sure she's the icing on the cake. We have 2 boys and then a girl, and even just that, I was so nervous. I was like, what if I'm a boy mom? Because I grew up with no brothers, and it was such a contrast to my upbringing. And I was like, I just need at least one little girl because I grew up with girly things and sisters. So I feel you on that. It's so fun to have them.
Yeah,
They're just...
It's totally different. It's fun. She definitely adds some sweetness to the family.
For sure. So your story is very interesting, and I don't really know where to start it exactly. I guess maybe go backwards to where you guys kind of decided travel needed to be an element of your family and how that all began and how you were even able to begin. Because for you guys listening, JoEllen is actually planning to move to Italy this year, and she spent last year in New Zealand and a whole bunch of other places she's going to tell you about. And it wasn't like something that you'd grown up doing. It wasn't something that, I think we just kind of are starting to see this trend of the world is getting smaller because we're able to travel more. And I think people want to know how you make that happen, how it's possible, and what made you even start. Because I think for people even like me, it's like, well, can I do that? What are the rules? Like, can you just pick up your life and move out of the country? What does that look like? So I guess just give us a little backstory on what inspired it and how you got going.
Okay. Well, first off, there are no rules. That's what I strongly believe is that you can create your own life, your own mold, break the trends and do whatever you feel is best for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess it started back when we lived in Arizona for about 8 years of our marriage, and that was home for us. We created a nice life there. We had great schools. My husband had a great job. We lived a very comfortable lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with it. We were just great. It was just everyday, average American life. And my husband, all over our marriage, he would say sometimes, "Oh, wouldn't that be awesome if we lived in another country?" And that was, I would just kind of like nod my head and smile and think to myself, "Yeah, no, like that's fine, but I think I'll say yes, but I won't ever really help that dream come true for you because that was just a little bit too out of my comfort zone."
Yeah.
But one day he did come to me and he's like, "You know what? I just think it would be really cool to live in another country." And that one time that he brought that up to me, it stuck. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we should think about it. So we started praying about it. We're very religious. So we started praying and just felt very right that we should pursue trying to move to another country.
Mm-hmm.
And our answer was absolutely. Like, it was like, yes, you do need to. This is something that's good and right. And this is what your family should do. So we continued forward. And then we started praying, like, where should we move to? So we looked into, South America, Dominican Republic, Spain, Europe. We looked in all over, and New Zealand was our answer. That it just felt so right that our family should move to New Zealand. So
Mm.
even though it was so hard to think about that and to step outside of our comfort zone, everything just fell into place. Every time we doubted, every time we felt overwhelmed, every time we felt anxious, and just wondering what in the world we were doing, we felt complete peace, and we knew we were supposed to. And we also knew we were supposed to because everything did fall into place. We got our visas, we got our passports, we got a job, we got our home sold, our car sold, we sold three-quarters of our stuff. Everything just, it wasn't easy. It was so, so hard, but it fell into place easily, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So it just worked out very smoothly, I guess as smoothly as an out of country move can go. So we moved there for 2 years, and that was hard to make that leap of faith because our family and our friends thought we were nuts. Why would we be leaving? Why would we
Right.
be leaving this life that we had created and it was perfect, in the American standards? And there was no reason why we should pick up and move, but it just, that was what we felt prompted and um, encouraged to do. So
Yeah.
we made that leap of faith, and it was so amazing. We loved living in another country. It was so good for us to meet new cultures, to open our eyes to doing things different ways, and that's okay to do something different. And we learned how to live more simply. And we took those 2 years, and it was such a good strengthening time for our family. We really grew together. We relied on each other. We made really great friends. It was so, so good. So
That's
that was like,
amazing.
I think that's like our first step, I think, into this traveling story. And so as we lived in another country, we traveled all over New Zealand, all over the North Island, all over the South Island. Even we went to Rarotonga while we were living there. We just traveled a lot every weekend. My husband worked during the week, and then the weekends we played hard. And
That's
so I
so
think
fun.
and like when we lived in Arizona, we traveled. We did camping every summer. That was huge for us. We did huge camping trips. We always visited family, and we did those kind of fun
Mhm.
traveling things. But I think moving to another country really opened our eyes to doing more traveling together. I feel like when you travel together, you really bond and you really become closer together because you are outside of your comfort zone together,
Yeah.
and you get to experience these things together. And so being in that new country really strengthened that desire to travel more. And so my husband was like, you know what? That'd be really cool if we could travel like full time. So
Mhm.
we knew we were going to be in New Zealand just for a couple years because we were on there for a visa,
Mhm.
the 30-month visa, and so we knew our time was limited. And so as our visa was coming up, we prayed and we're like, should we renew it or should we, um, gain uh, permanent residence here, or should we go back to the United States? And it was pretty clear to us that we should go back to the United States. And so my husband's like, well, it would be so awesome if we could travel, until we get back to the United States.
Mhm.
So like, okay, in order for this to happen though, we aren't millionaires, so we need a job that will allow us to do that. So he started looking into working remotely, just having a job that, you're just connected to the internet and you can live anywhere.
Mhm.
So thankfully, he was able to reach out to his old job in Arizona, and they hired him right away. And so he has a remote job. And so we left New Zealand, and we visited 17 countries in 6 months,
Oh
and
my
we
gosh.
made our way back to the United States. And then once we were in the United States, we still felt like we're not done traveling, and so we visited 29 states. And
What?
here we are today.
Wow, 29 states in how long?
That was, I think, like a 4-month time period.
So were you just driving around in your car? Did you have an RV? Were you just like Airbnbs, hotels? What was the
It was
where
mostly Airbnbs and hotels in our car. Yeah, we bought a car when we got back to the United States right away, and then we would just actually it was probably more over a 6-month time period because we landed in June, and then was all through December.
That's so
We
fun.
visited mostly family, caught up
Yeah,
with family that we hadn't seen in a couple years, and then we just did kind of a loop around the United States.
that's so amazing. And okay, so I'm just gonna throw my 2 cents in there too of what I feel like I've really loved and grown and learned. The reason that I love traveling is because there's so much that distracts us. It's kind of like this, and I know you've gone very, very minimal. I don't, and I would be curious to know how much of a minimalist you were before this. But what I think appeals to me the most is like I hate, and it's not that I can't be a responsible adult, but I hate how distracted I can be by just stuff that has to get done by the day to day. And when you're traveling, you can still cook in your kitchen and all that kind of stuff will get done, but it's just something about not being bogged down by all of your things and by all of the routines that you have to be in. Is that kind of something that you feel like you guys loved about traveling as well? Is just there's no attachment to stuff, you're just attached to each other.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm a better mom when we're traveling or
Yeah.
we're on vacation, you know? I mean, when we were traveling full time, it wasn't really vacation. It was we were kind of living in other countries,
Mhm.
kind of living our, my husband would still work and but like yes, we only had 4 suitcases and our 6 backpacks each and we just had the bare minimum and you really focus on what is most important, each other,
Yeah.
and like we would get to a country and our meals would be very simple. So, every kitchen is different wherever we would stay. So I just have to work with what utensils and tools we have in there. And so we'd
Right.
create really simple meals and we our laundry would be so simple. We do it like once or twice a week, a load, and so yes, getting back to the basics and really having a minimal lifestyle really helped us focus on our relationships and our memories and our experiences and not on collecting and gathering and taking care of all of our stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so next steps from that, which I know even right now, that's something that you've kind of, and we'll jump back into the traveling thing too, but this has really evolved into you having something that you're excited to share as well online. And I know you shared like your travels and stuff, and I loved following along with that. To be honest, it was kind of, I never had met you before. We met through Michelle, and you were just this person that lived in New Zealand. And I was like, okay, that's so odd because it's just not typical, right? I had no idea why you
Right.
lived there. I was like, how does somebody end up in New Zealand? Now it makes complete sense. And now, especially that I've heard your story, and I'm seeing how it's just not that irregular to be an expat, to live all over the world and visit these places. But you really kind of evolved, you came into like focus with me of, I kind of saw your evolution a little bit, right? Like your process into, I'm just traveling with my family. And it's really funny to hear your story because I feel like your husband is probably like me, where I can convince my husband of little things, little changes, and then I get him yanked on for the whole ride. Like I know if we ever traveled full time, it would have to start with how we're starting right now. Hey, let's go
Oh, it's
spend like
totally true. You guys are sneaky. You guys are sneaky.
we're so sneaky, but we know what we want, and we know that we just you and Ben are kind of like those type A, you need to understand all the elements, and it
Uh-huh.
needs to make sense, but once you catch the high, it's like, "Whoa," and we're like, "That's what I was trying to tell you, it's gonna be amazing." But it's cool to have seen, I'm sure it's kind of like relaxed you into this state of who you really are, and I love that you said it's made you like a better mom, and you're not focused on the things that we tend to get super wrapped up in, and that's the thing that I think is important in sharing this message. And I don't think you have to travel the world to get there, but I think it's an important message. And you're sharing that by helping people to really minimalize and declutter just the parts of their life that can really hold us down. So, talk a little bit about how that's kind of morphed into what you share online and what you've been able to help other people do.
Yeah, it's definitely evolution. I feel like it's been little baby steps, that I've
Hmm.
I've changed. I feel like I'm a totally different person than I was when I lived in Arizona. I was I liked my comfort zone. I liked my little ducks in a row. I liked my home in order. I didn't like change. I liked consistency. I liked routine. And so um moving to another country and like peeling myself away from that consumerism and the things that just overwhelm and just a part of your daily life, that really helped me kind of baby step into a little bit more minimalist lifestyle when we lived in New Zealand, and then selling all of our stuff to travel the world that's another huge step to peel myself away from collecting stuff. And actually, as we've been back in the States, because we've been back in the States for exactly a year now, um, I'm slowly seeing myself like those things creep back in, the collecting of things
Yeah,
and I don't like it. So it's nice to see where I was and who I become and who I don't want to be. So I'm trying to
right.
be really cautious and intentional on keeping those things at bay and trying to remind myself that no, it's actually so much better to live more minimally and
Hmm.
to focus on those other things that are so much more important, those memories
Yeah.
and being with your family instead of creating and collecting and just that consumerism that is so rampant in the
Oh,
United States,
man.
all
Yeah.
over the world, but especially the United States. So yeah, it's been interesting to see the evolution and to see where I was and who I'm becoming, and just make myself sure that I don't become someone I don't want to be.
Yeah. And you're able to kind of pay that forward too on your social media channels. I've learned from you. I've learned from you in like organizing my closet. And I know that you've gone into so many other little things that they're little, but they add up to a bigger sense of just like, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
realize how much pressure we're giving ourselves with our stuff. And you're really, I think by breaking it down and helping educate people, it's kind of taking that load off without them having to sell all the stuff to move across the world. It's just you get to have that freedom when you start realizing you don't need the stuff to make you happy.
Right, and I want to try to teach my friends and those who follow that you don't have to make these huge drastic changes like I did. You
Mhm.
don't have to move to another country. You don't have to travel the world in order to have this type of lifestyle. You can make small baby step changes to get to where you want to be. And so it's all about just not focusing your life on things. And so that's what I love to teach women is how to declutter, how to not live a boring life being a minimalist. I think that's kind of a stigma, like, oh, I
Yeah.
would never want to be a minimalist because it's so boring, wearing the same clothes over and over, or, just having a simple home. I'm trying to prove that wrong. I'm trying to teach women that being a minimalist is not boring. Actually, it's the opposite. You can focus on less stuff and actually have a really exciting and interesting life.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So, all of that, which that totally speaks to my soul, and I want to talk more about minimalism. Maybe we'll have you on for like a whole separate episode because I know we're going to gear up to do like a whole series about this because I think it's so fascinating still. And I think there's a lot of misconception with it. So, maybe we'll dive into that deeper on another call. But I
Sure.
did want to find out more about the fact that how did this transition into we're going to like move to Italy now and we're going to live in Italy. We don't even know for how long. Tell us about that story.
Okay. This might get a little emotional. So as we were living in New Zealand, it was great being away from family was hard, but it was good because it strengthened our relationship with our family members because we worked harder on staying in touch with them.
Mhm.
But as we decided to travel for 6 months and to visit all these countries, we felt like we were going to settle back in the United States, probably a small town somewhere, because we kind of like the slower lifestyle living, which I
Mhm.
never thought I would say. I grew up in Southern California and I like the city and I like my amenities. But the longer we've been married, I kind of crave that slow living and
Yeah,
just nice, simple lifestyle.
right.
So we just figured we'd travel, get all our traveling out of us, and then we'd settle back down in the United States somewhere. Well, along the way, I just kept falling in love with all these different cultures. And God just kind of was just speaking to me like, maybe you're supposed to be somewhere else, other than the United States. Maybe you're supposed to settle down somewhere else. And so I just kept my mind and my heart open as we traveled. Is this where we're supposed to move, or is this where we're supposed to move? And we had 2 more months of traveling, and we still didn't know where we were supposed to settle down. We were just like walking in faith. We were like, oh, gosh, like we're going to be done in 2 months. Where are we supposed to be, and what are we supposed to do? Um, but I just kept feeling that it would all work out, and it would be revealed to us somehow where we should settle down. We were flying from Dominican Republic to Italy, and our flight actually got rerouted unexpectedly, and so we had to scramble for changing our plans and rental car and hotel and all that. And so we landed in Venice, and it was late at night, and it was super dark. We got on our shuttle and we're driving to our hotel, and it just hit me so hard that our family was supposed to move there.
Mm,
It just was a strong feeling, and I was like, it came out of nowhere. I always wanted and really looked forward to visiting Italy. I was so excited. It was on my bucket list, the top on my bucket list. But I hadn't even seen Italy yet. It was super dark. I haven't even fallen in love with like the charm and the gelato and all the good people.
yeah.
But it just hit me so strongly that our family was supposed to move there, and I was like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? So we settled down in our hotel rooms. We had to split up into two hotel rooms because some countries are pretty crazy with
Strict.
their
Yeah.
policies. Yeah. So my husband was in one hotel room and I was in another. And I didn't have a chance to talk to him about it that night. But again, as I was in bed, I had that strong feeling like this is home. This is
Mhm.
where you are supposed to settle down. And it just just came out of nowhere and was like, "Oh my gosh." So the next morning, we're standing at a bus stop together, and my husband looks over at me. And he's like, "Dude, we're supposed to move here." I'm like, "I know." I was like, "I had that feeling last night."
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh,
so we're like, "Okay, how, not what we were expecting."
right.
Um, but we're like, "Okay, well, we're gonna have faith and we're going to move forward." So we were in Italy for the whole month. So we um just kind of try to keep our mind and our heart open to like how we could make this work. We knew we were supposed to move there, but we had no idea how we could make it happen.
Mhm.
What we were supposed to do with our kids, with schooling and with work and all that. So little by little, we've had a little bit of answers here and there. I started homeschooling, so like if we move to Italy, that will education won't be a problem.
Mhm.
My husband still has his online job with his company in Arizona for the next couple of years, so that's another awesome thing for us that we don't have to worry about work. Um, so over that happened, we had those impressions about a year ago, and you would so sometimes when you get an answer or you get guidance, you kind of think that something's going to happen right away, but
Yeah.
that's not always the case. And so that happened a year ago, and so it's been a long year of trying to figure out, okay, we know this is what we're supposed to do. How are we supposed to do it?
Yeah.
So we looked into the visa route, and that's nearly impossible to get a visa to move to Italy if you don't work in Italy, because we have an American job.
Mhm.
So we had to kind of rule that option out. But then through some awesome experiences, we were able to get connected with a man who put us in touch with the option of getting dual citizenship because my great grandfather immigrated from Italy. And so we've been able to, this whole last, I don't know, like 4 months, I've been busy getting all of our birth certificates and death certificates and marriage certificates and
Oh
all
my
of them
gosh.
certified. And so we have all of them but one. We're just waiting on one. And then,
Oh my You're
so we're
still
going to
waiting
be,
on it. You were waiting on it,
yes,
right? Like a couple months ago when we originally recorded this? Is that right?
yes,
Oh,
probably.
man.
It's like it's insane how long it takes to get these things. So once we get all of our certificates, then we have to get them translated, and then we're going to go over to Italy. Probably well, now my husband hurt his foot, now needs surgery,
Oh,
so
no.
that might push it off. But maybe like September October timeframe, we're going to go over to Italy for a couple months and get all of our paperwork done over there. And if everything goes okay, if this is what we're really supposed to do, we will get our citizenship at the end of this year, and then we're hoping to move next year sometime.
Wow.
So
What
even
a
though we had
process.
so even though we had those experiences, it does not mean that it's an easy process. We just like it's
Yeah,
been gut wrenching and long, and we've had to have so much patience and do so much work to get this going. But we know that if this is what we're supposed to do, it will all
right.
work out. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you guys. I'm bummed that you probably won't be there when we go in September, but I mean, you're going to be there probably for sure a very long time, which is going to be exciting because we'll have somewhere to come and people come to visit when we come back to
yes,
Italy, right? I
it'll
just
be so nice.
I have this feeling we're going to love it and maybe not to the point where we're going to be like we have to move here. I who knows though, right? But I that's definitely like you said a place on your bucket list that you'd always wanted to go. That's been on mine for such a long time and I'm so excited to just go experience the culture. My kids, Felicity today was like, "But I don't know how to speak their words." I'm like, "It's okay. A lot of them know how to speak your words. They know how to speak English." She's like, "I don't know how
You
to
know what?
speak English."
Google
That's
Translate is amazing. You can use it anywhere in the world, and it's amazing. She'll learn how to speak her language by Google Translate. So
that's amazing. I love it. Well, we're kind of trying to gear them up and we're going to eventually when we get our act together start labeling things in the house so they can at least know some terminology in Italian and not feel,
that's a good idea.
completely out
Well,
of whack.
and a great app is Duolingo. So have her start doing Duolingo.
Yes,
She'll
we
learn
have
some basic things.
Duolingo. We
Yeah.
have that. So we're on the right track. It's just it's hard in the summertime. Summer
Oh yeah, for
translates as
sure.
just like fun time and not learning time, but when you homeschool, it
Yes.
sounds like learning happens all the time. So we're getting there, but that's so cool. Well, I think your story is inspiring and I think what we can kind of take away from it maybe the very most is like plan to not have a plan and just be
Yeah.
open be open to extraordinary things, right? Like my husband and I were talking about this last night of what do we want for our life, what do we really want for our future, and he said something along the lines of like I just don't want to have a typical life. I want very random cool things and none of it all fits into one cohesive plan, but it's just going to feel right for us because when you have a family you're dealing with you guys have 4 kids, 6 different personalities, 6 different destinies and experiences that your guys are meant to have, and that's not all gonna fit into a perfect box, and even though it's a little strange to step out of what's normal, like, your family kind of was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? It's just it's good that you guys have disrupted that because now look at what the open how it's opened so much endless potential. So, I think
Yeah,
moms listening, just open up your minds, be disrupted. It's okay.
for sure. If I had said no to my husband when he had brought that up that last time about moving to another country, I would have missed out on so many amazing opportunities. I am a totally different person. I feel like I'm still learning, I'm still growing. I'm not perfect, but I mean, I feel like these last 3 years have been like university for JoEllen changing and becoming a better person, you know? So it's like, just putting yourself out in the world and stepping outside your comfort zone, you learn and grow so much. And
Yeah,
I would not change a minute of these last couple years.
that's so amazing. Well, I'm very inspired by it. I'm so happy we got to talk again because it just kind of there's something stirring inside of me and it actually was very comforting to hear it doesn't have to and it might not happen immediately because I've been like we're having to move, we're having to change houses and I'm like is this the right choice or should we just be selling everything and like traveling across the world? But it's not quite the right time. But at least I
Yeah,
feel like it doesn't have to be in my perfect time frame. Nothing is forever and you can make those changes whenever you really want to and whatever it makes sense to do that. So you're
for
great.
sure.
Okay, final question I ask everybody on this podcast is what makes you a marvelous mom?
You know what? I think that what makes me a marvelous mom is I don't focus on the things that I don't do right. I try to focus on the things that I do right.
Mhm.
Because it's so easy to look down on yourself and to have that mom guilt. But
Yeah.
there are things that I do great. You know, to tuck my kids in at night every night, and we read our scriptures every day, and we um, I do really. I'm an awesome mom when it comes to their birthdays. I make them like feel like a queen or a king on that day. So those things that I feel like that I do right, I really hold on to those things. And I know that I have my list of things I need to work on, but I try to focus on the positive and not on the negative.
Yeah, I love that, and I can totally see that from the outside looking in with your family too. So, thank you for being a light and an example. Where can everybody come and find you if they wanna learn more and follow your adventures and all of your exciting life changes?
You can find me on iamjoellen.com. It's just JoEllen, or I am JoEllen on Instagram. That's where you find
Awesome.
me.
Cool. Thank you again for sharing your story twice. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. You guys listening, thanks for tuning in. Come and chat with us on Instagram. Come follow Joelle and screenshot the episode. Let us know you were listening and where your dream destination is. I would love to know what's at the top of your bucket list. So let's keep the conversation going over on social media. Thanks again, Joelle. You guys have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Are you looking for a fun activity, some inspiration for your homeschool journey, some travel ideas, or anything under the sun that might pertain to motherhood? Make sure you've checked out all the new amazing content on marvelousmomsclub.com. It's become an amazing collaborative community full of so many messages from moms from all around the world. So if you're looking for something that strikes your fancy, inspires you, teaches you, or just lifts you up when you're feeling down, go check out marvelousmomsclub.com today.